Okay, on to the third part, and this one is by far the most common missed problem when it comes to solving equations, is when you have a fraction that's being multiplied, okay? So let's just read the problem. If 5 over 6x equals 5, what is the value of 2x? And most people see this and they immediately just like, forget it, I don't even know, because there's a fraction. Don't freak out by the fraction, but there is some new, possibly new things that you do need to be aware of for how you solve this problem. Okay, and the very first thing is this idea, and you'll hear me use this terminology when we see problems like this, so I want to make sure it's identified. What you need to do is you need to multiply by the inverse. Well, what does that mean? What is an inverse? So let's go over that first. What is an inverse? Well, an inverse would be, so if we have a fraction, let me give some examples. If we have the fraction 4 over 5, well, the inverse would be 5 over 4. Okay, that would be the inverse. If we had the fraction 7 over 11, the inverse would be 11 over 7. Okay, that would be the inverse. So that word inverse just means if it's a fraction, you're literally just flipping it upside down. Okay, it's the inverse means like the opposite. So it's the opposite fraction, you flip it upside down. You multiply by the inverse. Let's see why you might want to do that. Remember, whenever we have multiplication, same thing when we had this problem over here, right? We wanted to get this multiplication to equal 1, right? Because 6 divided by 6 equals 1. Well, 1x is just x. So we're trying to get it to equal 1. Well, what happens when you multiply any inverse? Well, let's just try. So multiplying the inverse would be, let's say, 4 over 5 times 5 over 4. Well, remember, whenever you multiply these, it's like 4 times 5, and it's 5 times 4. Well, 4 times 5 would be 20. 5 times 4 would be 20. So you're just multiplying straight across. Well, 20 over 20 equals 1. That's what happens when you multiply by the inverse. So that's why that's what you want to do to make this equal 1. Okay, so that's all some backstory. Let's go ahead and actually apply that to this problem here. So if we have this problem, 5 over 6x equals 5, we are going to multiply by the inverse. Okay, well, what's the inverse of this? Well, the inverse would be 6 over 5. So you're going to multiply both sides by 6 over 5. Multiply by 6 over 5. Okay, let's see how this plays out. Now, you could go through this whole process. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 6, or 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, 30 over 30 is 1. But you just need to know, okay, those 5's cancel out, that x cancels out. It just cancels itself out. That's why we did that. So what are we left with on this side? Well, how do you multiply this? Well, all you need to do is you multiply the numerator to the number, because you're really thinking it's like over 1. So it's really the same thing. You're just multiplying straight across. So all you need to really think is that whole number times the numerator. 5 times 6 is 30, and then you keep the over 5. So you have 30, and you still keep the over 5. Okay, we still have our equals. And what's left here? Well, we just have x. X equals 30 over 5. Well, we can simplify this one step further. 30 divided by 5 would be, what is that, 6. Okay, is that your answer? Great job. Not quite. We have to look back to the problem. Okay, we did all this nice work. You have to go back to the problem and make sure that's what it's asking. It says 2x. So we actually need to go ahead and take 2 times our x, which is 6. So we have 12. That would be the actual answer.